Hello and thank you for watching Access Asia. Coming up, hundreds of people protest for justice in Pakistan. Extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances are rampant in Baluchistan province. They say the security forces are to blame. A state of emergency declared in Papua New Guinea's capital after over a dozen people were killed in recent unrest. Chaos ensued after police went on strike, cars were set on fire, and shops looted. And onion prices in some parts of the world are eye-wateringly high. India, one of the world's biggest producers, has limited exports, sparking smuggling and price hikes abroad. Pakistan's southwest province of Baluchistan is home to a violent separatist movement. Ethnic Baluch have long complained of marginalization, and over the years, thousands of people have gone missing, including rights and political activists, armed fighters, and seemingly innocent men and women. Protests led by women recently reignited after a young man died in police custody. This report from Islamabad.
For the past 3 weeks, the families of Baloch missing persons have staged a sit-in outside the Islamabad Press Club. They refuse to leave the capital until the authorities meet their demands.
Two of my cousins were picked up from Quetta in 2013. We still don't know about their whereabouts. We are here for our family to get justice.
Maharang Baloch is leading the protest. Her father, a doctor, was forcefully disappeared when she was a child, and months later his mutilated body was discovered.
There's an atmosphere of suppression in Baluchistan. People are being silenced. They cannot speak against state oppression. If someone's family member is picked up, they don't even file a case because if they try to do it, the police harass them. There's a new wave now where missing persons are extrajudicially killed and then labeled as terrorists.
The demonstrators were manhandled by the police upon their arrival in Islamabad. The courts had to intervene and permitted the protesters to continue the sit-in. Balochistan has long been marred by separatist violence. State repression rages in the geopolitically strategic province.
In Pakistan, the military has always been powerful, and the military has always, clamped down on dissent, whether that is in the form of enforced disappearances, arbitrary detention, or even extrajudicial killings. So we have had Baloch dissidents. We have had human rights activists who have been picked up.
Thousands of people have disappeared over the past 20 years in Balochistan. Hundreds of abandoned bodies have been found in the streets of the troubled province.
A state of emergency was declared in Papua New Guinea's capital after over a dozen people were killed in recent unrest. Chaos ensued after police went on strike. Cars were set on fire. Shops were looted. Tensions have been high on the Pacific Island nation amid high unemployment and rising prices. Jean-Emile Jamin reports.
There's a long cleanup ahead here on the streets of Papua New Guinea's capital, Port Moresby. Buildings torched and destroyed, livelihoods turned upside down.
They were barricaded, not knowing whether they'll go home alive or not, because our first and foremost instruction was bunker down, lock up, and the staff to be moved out.
This was the epicenter of deadly violence, sparked by Wednesday's strike of police and public servants over unexplained pay cuts. What started off peacefully escalated rapidly as shops and businesses were looted and set alight. The riots soon spread 300 kilometers north to the city of Lai, and ultimately several people died in the chaos that ensued.
In 48 years of independence, I can't recall in my lifetime seeing this level of devastation in a single day event. It's just senseless, it's unacceptable, and we just need to have a really good hard look at ourselves.
Prime Minister James Marape responded, declaring a 14-day state of emergency late on Thursday, suspending several officials and putting more than 1,000 soldiers on standby.
I want to indicate to our country, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And we will get to work. If you're a disciplined force member, I am mobilizing grade 12 students to be trained to take your place if you step out of line.
The latest burst of violence highlights the often volatile nature of life on the island nation. Despite vast deposits of gas, gold and minerals, rights groups estimate that almost 40% of Papua New Guinea's 9 million citizens live below the poverty line.
Police forces across the Philippines and Nepal have raided trucks in recent weeks and found tons of onions which had been smuggled from India. Now, the price of the bulbs, like wheat and rice, has soared in several countries since India, one of the world's leading producers, deliberately curbed exports. Let's bring in France 24 journalist Shirli Sitbon. Hello to you, Shirley. Why would a country like India, major producer, limit its exports of these onions?
Well, to bring prices down at home. In the past few months, the weather was erratic, and in August, it was the hottest in more than a century in India. So there were less crops and the prices went up. And that's something, of course, that nobody wants to see. No government and no family, of course, no user, but no government wants to see, especially as general elections are expected soon. So they wanted to act. They took several measures. And one of them, the last one, was this ban decided last month. So the goal is to lower the price, and that actually worked. And the price has indeed decreased in 1 week, 20%. Now, have to know that in India, the onions has a special significance, a political significance. This is a vegetable that has been used for thousands of years, 5,000 years. And in the past, local majorities were even pushed out because of the onion prices, because the idea is that, well, if a government is not able to keep the onion affordable, well, it's not worthy of governing. And that's something we've seen throughout history. Maybe we have some images of these protests more than a decade ago in India, which has brought, it was called the onion crisis at the time. Also, Indira Gandhi also campaigned on that in 1980, saying prices were too high, so she had to come back to power, and she showed onions during her rallies. So that's a historic movement.
So prices have dropped in India. What about neighboring countries?
They've soared, even doubled in some areas. All the neighboring countries really depend on this Indian onion. And now this explains all the smuggling, because in India, the prices have dropped. And in Bangladesh and Nepal and Sri Lanka, they've increased. Some countries have introduced subsidies. And well, what we've seen is these major smuggles. And did you know, Will, that the onion is the third most smuggled product in some of these countries after cigarettes and counterfeit goods?
Yeah, I did not know that. Shirley, international bodies are calling on India to revise its decision, fearing it could have a ripple effect on global inflation.
Yes, because India is a major exporter, not just of onions, also of rice. 40% of the rice sold in the world is from India. Also wheat, sugar, and it's such a major producer. A decision like that, well, it does not generate trust. That's what international bodies have told India. It can be imitated. It can set a precedent for other major producers. What will that lead to? And this adds up to so many uncertainties on the world market. Many areas depend on Indian foodstuff. For example, in sub-Saharan Africa, more than 50% of foodstuff come from that, or imported from India. And so this will add up to other problems. We know about the war in Ukraine, all this uncertainty of various weather hazards linked to global warming. So international bodies are asking India, please go back on this decision. But India says it really wants to maintain this ban to make sure prices remain low until the end of March at least.
Thank you, Shirley. Shirli Sitbon, certainly a story we'll continue to follow here on Access Asia. Well, we stay in India for this next report. Not only have activists and the government helped save the Indian rhinoceros, but they are using a surprising, perhaps even ingenious tactic. They have found a way to fight back against poachers by giving them jobs. Aurore Dupuy explains.
In the middle of these plains and mountains resides a giant that almost vanished from the face of the earth. The Indian rhinoceros. On the brink of extinction in the 90s, 50 of them are now living in this natural reserve. At the crack of dawn, a group of friends are on the lookout, hoping to come across a rhino.
I've never seen rhinos before. Where I live, there are none. That's why I came here.
After driving for a while, they finally spot one.
Look there, over there.
A creature appears in the distance.
At last I've seen a rhino. I'm so glad I came.
Thanks to local authorities and NGOs, the rhinoceros population in this park is on the rise.
And fixed to the rhino. This would enable
Over the past 20 years, dozens of wild animals from other parts of India were relocated in this reserve, allowing them to reproduce and thrive. Poachers were largely responsible for the species' decline, so to prevent them from killing the animals, Indian authorities have decided to give them a job, working as forest rangers. Former hunters, like this man who lost his arm in an elephant attack, or those who feel remorseful, are now actively involved in protecting rhinos.
Now I no longer enjoy hunting. When I see the beauty of nature around us, it's captivating to patrol amid this wildlife.
Unlike their African cousins, Indian rhinoceroses are slightly smaller and only have one horn. But they do have something in common: eating. Up to 30 kilos of grass every day.
If you look at the size, they require a lot of food for their energy. Most part of the day is spent in grazing.
From only around 200 rhinos at the start of the century, there are now nearly 3,000 across India.
That's it for this edition. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned to Francis 24.